Welcome back. In tonight's original report, big plans in motion for a Liberty ship that survived D-Day and escaped a huge fire.
KPIX 5's Alan Martin takes us inside the efforts to save the SS Jeremiah O'Brien.
San Francisco prides itself in its rich history, and this floating monument to World War II is certainly a unique part of that. And at almost 80 years old, the Jeremiah O'Brien has beaten the odds and survived. The O'Brien's most recent brush with Davy Jones' locker came the night of May 23, 2020. A huge fire had engulfed a warehouse on San Francisco's Pier 45.
Got heavy fire on the back of the pier. The USS Jeremiah is in danger.
Tied up alongside the pier was the 1943 Liberty ship Jeremiah O'Brien. Her current captain, Savan Lesueur.
I was stunned when I walked on board because I feared the worst. Like everybody that's involved just feared the worst.
Flames silhouetted the World War II ship, eerily reminiscent of its battle-tested days at the beaches of Normandy, France. But then the cavalry arrived, firefighters aboard the St. Francis fireboat armed with water cannons.
They positioned the fireboats in location on the bow and the stern and basically created an umbrella of water to preserve the ship and to keep the heat off, as much heat as possible off the vessel.
The next day it was clear the O'Brien would survive.
I knew that the ship was going to be saved at that point, that we weren't, that it was going to be, there would be long-term damage, but immediately the ship could be saved.
But the dedication to saving this 440-foot floating piece of history begs some context. Liberty Ship Memorial Executive Director Matt Lasher.
The SS Jeremiah O'Brien was at Normandy, and it is very much entwined in that history of the American merchant mariner.
The O'Brien was one of 2,700 cargo carriers known as Liberty ships, built to support the Allies' war effort against the Germans. Each ship took only weeks to build. The idea was to mass produce them faster than the German U-boats could sink them. Typically, Liberty ships only survived one voyage. But the Germans were never able to touch the O'Brien, and she made 11 crossings of the English Channel, carrying personnel and supplies to prepare for the D-Day invasion. After the war, the O'Brien and her antiquated but remarkably reliable 2,500 horsepower steam engine were retired, only to slowly rust away as part of the mothball fleet in Sassoon Bay. In 1979, she was rescued from the potential of the scrapyard, was painstakingly restored, and actually sailed under her own power back to Normandy for the 50th anniversary of D-Day. The O'Brien is now the only remaining fully functioning Liberty ship in existence. But as the saying goes, rust never sleeps, and the O'Brien is in need of restoration yet again. The firefight in 2020 soaked the Jeremiah O'Brien in corrosive salt water, and then for safety's sake, they moved her down to Pier 35. Well, she's back at 45 now, and work to restore the historic Liberty ship has started once again.
Ready to rock.
This latest restoration began before the 2020 fire, with a complete replacement of the ship's original steam engine boiler tubes. Hundreds of rusty 2-inch and 4-inch steel pipes had to be slowly, individually replaced. Chief Engineer John Eaton.
One by one, they had to be shuffled into the boiler room, and the debris ones, the ones pulled out, had to come out.
But out of necessity comes opportunity, and those rusty old pipes are being cut, rounded off, banded, and offered to the public for a donation.
And we've retained the tubing, and what we're doing is taking a piece of that, a cross-section of that, and people that give us a donation of $100 or more towards our dry dock this year, we're going to send you a piece of tube. This tube was original to the O'Brien during World War II, and it was actually at Normandy.
After dry dock, where the O'Brien gets taken completely out of the water for inspection and further repairs, she'll be fit to sail once again.
We want her out, we want her in the water, we want to bring folks from all across the country out to see her, to experience the engine room, to experience being on a World War II Liberty ship while she's underway.
To recognize that, there were 600 American ships sunk in World War II and like 8,000 men died. Well, this is a piece of history that you can't replicate.
The plan for the Jeremiah O'Brien now is that after Fleet Week, she'll be put into dry dock for 30 days. That'll be around November. And then after that, she'll come back to Pier 45, where once again, she'll be open to the public for tours and cruises.
In San Francisco, Alan Martin, KPIX 5.